Hello everyone, I'm Matt, and this is the Worst Channel on YouTube. This is my series on my interpretation of Buddhism, which I call Centrism, and if you enjoy, please consider subscribing. Also be sure to watch the earlier episodes to get the full picture, but with that said, let's just get into it. So, one of the most complex and nuanced topics in Buddhism is the concept of Anatta, or non-self. The teachings of the Buddha would be incomplete if we left out this concept, which makes it sad that some Buddhist teachers don't even touch on the topic. I'll also be the first to say that I don't fully grasp all of Anatta myself. I'm still learning and growing, but if I only talked about what I completely understood, I wouldn't have anything to talk about at all. Also, if you're more interested in delving deeper into this concept than I can go in this video, I suggest getting the book Stepping Out of Self-Deception by Rodney Smith. It's a fairly long read, but it's very insightful and definitely worth it. And no, I'm not sponsored. Anyway, Anatta is the concept of non-self. To start understanding what this is, I need to go back and explain the opposite concept, that of Atman. In Hinduism, the belief is that every person has a small fragment of God within them, and this fragment is called Atman. The Atman is similar to the Western concept of the soul. It is the essence within ourselves that makes us who we are. It is our personality, our life force, and everything about us that isn't physical. In Hindu belief, it is the Atman that travels between bodies after death, carrying the personalities, traits, and even memories of past lives with it. The ultimate goal in Hinduism is to liberate the Atman so that it is no longer reborn and it can be free from the physical world. The Buddha, being a Hindu himself, disagreed with this idea. He stated that every living being had a consciousness, or awareness as he called it, that made them alive, but that there was no self. There was no unchangeable factor within ourselves. In other words, everything, including our quote-unquote self, is impermanent. People change every day, even if in slow and imperceptible ways, until we become completely new individuals both physically and mentally. He stated that there was no permanent form, and that clinging to self-identity is one of the things that causes suffering. We have a picture of ourselves as we are and cling to that image, not wanting it to change. Resisting change or worrying about our self-image being disrupted causes a lot of unnecessary turmoil. Non-self goes beyond this, however. When there is no self, then everything is self. This means that everything is dependent and interconnected. Essentially, nothing is a, quote, self unto itself. Everything is conditioned and connected together. For example, every idea we have comes from somewhere, and everything is made up of smaller and smaller components. Now, some people interpret the doctrine of Anatta to also mean that there is no afterlife. The fact that the Buddha said that there was no permanent soul or no self has nothing to do with rebirth or the afterlife. In fact, the Buddha spoke about both together, often stating that how we act in this life will determine how we are reborn in the next life. I used to also believe that if there was no permanent soul, then there was no afterlife, and somehow the Buddha was just talking about rebirth in a psychological sense, but now I think otherwise. The way I see it is that none of us are permanent people. For example, right now, I'm Matt, trying to create a popular YouTube channel. But 10 years ago, I was a Matt that was in school and writing books. And 10 years from now, I will also have likely changed significantly. The important takeaway from this is to realize that our personalities, our likes and dislikes, etc., they are not fixed entities, they're all conditioned. So in a future life, I might be a criminal on the run, or I might be a musician, or I might be a mother of 5 struggling to make ends meet, and on and on. Each of these situations will be both a combination of my making, my physical makeup, and my circumstances. Who I am will also change with these 3 factors. What the Hindu monastics got wrong was thinking that anything but pure awareness was fixed. And in reality, this is exactly what spiritual rebirth is. Nothing transfers from body to body except our awareness and our karma. So, why is this important? To some, Anatta just sounds like some kind of new age mumbo-jumbo, and to others it sounds like philosophical musing without much practical application. And to some it sounds deeply pessimistic or defeatist. In fact, when most people hear about Buddhism for the first time, they think that the First Noble Truth is pessimistic. But if they don't think this, or change their minds eventually, oftentimes their next stumbling block is the concept of Anatta, which also sounds pessimistic and defeatist. The very idea that we don't have a soul is depressing and kind of scary. In fact, it took me a long time of writing and rewriting this episode to tackle this topic, and I'm still not completely happy with it. And I'll be honest, I used to think that Anatta was a scary idea too. This is a concept within Buddhism that I've spent probably the longest studying to really try and understand because it is so fundamental and because I just didn't get it. So let's delve a little bit deeper. First off, to those who think that this idea of Anatta is interchangeable with other Western New Age concepts, I will say that they're not fully wrong. The idea that everything is connected is not really new. The chief difference, though, between these ideas and Anatta is actually two differences. First, Anatta is observable. Even though we have no proof of rebirth, we can clearly see that personality, likes and dislikes, desires, and everything else that makes up a person all change slowly over time, to the point where they become unrecognizable compared to their past selves. Many other New Agey type doctrines are not observable or testable, whereas Anatta is. The second difference is that Anatta has a very practical use in the reduction of suffering, and that is meditation. So there are a few types of meditation, but meditation is primarily about letting go of the world and letting go of yourself. It's about absorbing oneself in simple awareness and abandoning everything else that makes us who we are. This is the ultimate goal of meditation, for that spark of awareness is all that we are, everything else is temporary and changing. Meditation, contrary to popular belief, is not about complete passiveness and relaxation. Instead, it's a very active process meant to cultivate awareness and mindfulness. So this video is already a little bit long, so I'm going to talk about meditation in the next video and the different types and how to get into it and everything. But one thing to remember is that meditation is a sacred practice in Buddhism, much like prayer in other religions, but you don't need to be a Buddhist to practice it. Centrists and Buddhists alike believe that everyone will come to the truth on their own in their own time, no matter what they believe currently, and that there is no need to force anyone to believe in anything, because again, it's up to each individual as to how they want to proceed and how they want to live their lives. So, with that said, this is a brief introduction to the idea of Anatta, or non-self. It means, in a nutshell, that nothing is a, quote, self. Nothing is a fixed entity, but instead, everything is a collection of smaller pieces based on conditions, environments, etc. In Buddhist terms, everything has a conditioned existence. It also means that we are merely awareness, nothing more and nothing less. This concept permeates everything in existence, and Buddhists say that nothing is a self because everything in existence is subject to anatta, and everything in existence is interconnected. In fact, there are 3 laws that apply to everything in existence, and these 3 laws are called the 3 marks of existence. Those 3 marks are first anatta, which we just covered. The other 2 are impermanence and unsatisfactoriness. All 3 things tie together. Basically, everything is impermanent and in constant flux, and that's why nothing can be permanently satisfying, and all of these things are therefore not a constant self. And that, in and of itself, is anatta. Now, I know this has been a much more philosophical episode than I've had previously, but this concept is so important and fundamental to Buddhism that I couldn't leave it out. So, I hope that made sense. I tried to both give a philosophical definition and kind of a layperson's definition, and yeah. As always, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'm always interested in having discussions, debates, that kind of thing. So let me know your thoughts, and if you like this, maybe consider subscribing. I do work pretty hard on these videos, and I'm hoping they're interesting at least to somebody out there. So yeah, please leave a like, comment, do all that kind of stuff. And next time I'm going to go into the practice of meditation. And in the meantime, just remember, this is the worst channel on YouTube. So you found it, and thanks for checking it out. I've been your host, Matt, and I hope you have a great day.